तत्परं पर्यय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयात्। ओम योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंद गिरी गुरु महाराज की जय। नमस्ते, वणक्कम, स्वागतम. A very bright start to today. The sun is up and you can see I'm basking in the bright sunlight today. Every day is an opportunity for us to grow. Every day is an opportunity for us to learn something more about our own self. Every day is an opportunity to care and share. Every day is an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves than we were the previous day. Life is such an opportunity. The human incarnation is such an opportunity where that power of choice, the superpower of being human, can be utilized in a mindful manner, enabling us to channelize our energy, that potent divine energy that lies within us. Channelize it towards growth into something higher, a bigger aspect of ourselves, a much more elevated aspect, an aspect that can see the bigger perspective, can see how all the pieces fall together and can take itself out of the equation. You have truly grown in spirit when you can take yourself out of the equation and just look at it as it is, rather than as you perceive it while you are stuck in the middle of it. Subjectivity clouds our capacity to perceive. And that is why as we move from subjectivity to objectivity, that subjective bondage that is ego-based, klesha-based, to an objective liberation that is viveka-based, vairagya-based. Viveka and vairagya becoming amazing wings on which we can fly up. Viveka and vairagya, the two wings as you fly up, and you start to be able to perceive life as it is, with all the interconnectivity that is existing. But we had lost it because we were down in the dumps. When we were down in the dumps, our nose was in the mud. We had no idea what is up there in the sky, that beautiful blue sky with the amazing sunlight today. If my nose is down in the mud, I will only sense the mud and not be aware of anything else. This is where we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to life. We owe it to the universe to grow for growth's sake. We have been looking at karma, my doing, karma. And we realize that karma is multidimensional. What you put out comes back in one way or the other, in one form or the other. And everything in this universe is connected to everything else, which means we are put in the very place we need to work out our karma accumulations from all the past incarnations. We are put in the place where we can work out the karma of this incarnation too. It is said we have sanchita karma. Sanchita karma, which is also called sa-bija karma. Sa means with. The seed karma that is carried from lifetime to lifetime, sabija karma, sanchita karma. That is the karma that is carried by the samskara vasana combination. The samskara vasana combination carries the karma from lifetime to lifetime, And the samskara vasana karma combination is given the fuel by the kleshas. So the samskara vasana combination fueled by the kleshas, driving us from lifetime to lifetime and accumulating more and more karma. That is the sabija sanchita karma. Now when we are born on this karma bhumi, when we are born on earth, this karma, that is the seed karma, when the conditions are suitable, it's like the insurance companies, terms and conditions apply. When the terms and conditions are conducive and suitable, the seed karma starts to grow. So the seed starts to grow, and whatever that seed is starts to manifest in your life and starts to come into manifestation. So the seed karma, the sanchita karma, the sabija karma was dormant. It is dormant karma. It's a seed in cold storage. Now when the conditions start to heat up, when in your life, through your thoughts, your actions, the environment in which you are, the conditions start to become conducive, that seed karma starts to manifest and starts to rub you the wrong way. It's called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma, which is the karma that is rubbing you right now. So the karma that is manifesting right now in your life is the prarabdha karma rubbing you. Huh? Yeah. All that. And all that is the prarabdha karma. That is the manifestation of the sanchita sabija karma. And the prarabdha karma, the good news, is that by manifesting, you are burning it up. So you are actually burning up karma when it is manifesting. So when you are struggling with your karma manifestation, prarabdha karma, just be happy that you are working it out. It has come back and it is manifesting, and if it manifests, it means you are working out that balance. The balance sheet is starting to tally a bit. Rather than always being in that credit or debit side, it is starting to balance a bit. Your karmic accounts are starting to balance out when they manifest. Which is why Swamiji used to say, if your action and the reaction, if the cause and effect come closer together, he called it instant karma. The karma has immediately manifested. You have done and dusted it. You don't have to carry it any further. It is like not taking a loan and not paying on EMI. Paying in hard cash and getting the transaction done, sealed, finished. So the hard cash karma is prarabdha karma. You have done and dusted it. It's finished. And that is the good news. You don't have to worry about it. So if you are experiencing a karmic manifestation, be happy that you are working it out. This has been the attitude in Indian culture. That when we struggle, when we have things happen to us, we have understood that it is an opportunity to work out the karma and hence become free of it. As long as it has not manifested, you are worried about it because you don't know when it will manifest. It is like a bomb, karma bomb. The karma bomb is a bomb that is ticking all the time. Now this bomb is ticking in your life and you never know when it's going to go off. So the karma bomb can anytime go off, and that is the struggle because you are like, oh my God, everything is going good. What if the bomb goes off? Because the karma bomb is constantly ticking. You never know when it's going to go off. Now what happens if the karma bomb goes off and blasts you and your life to smithereens? The good news is you have worked out your karma. You may not be there to know it, but you have worked it out. So the karma bomb going off is a means for you to clear your karma accounts. So people say, oh my God, so it means that all these bombs have to keep on going out? You have to keep on letting the bomb blast you to pieces and work with it? Well, what does yoga say? Become mindful of it. And this is where yantra and understanding the karmic cycles is so important. Understanding the dharma marga is so important, because you start to mindfully approach karma. So here you have a karma bomb, and the karma bomb going off balances your account. And what you are trying to do is, instead of letting the bomb just go off at any time, you are starting to gain the insight, the skill and the confidence to diffuse that bomb mindfully. I'm letting that sink in. There is a bomb. The bomb has to go off for you to balance your karma account. But if you are mindful, if you develop the skills and grow in consciousness to take responsibility of your dharma, you will then start to make decisions and do things in your life that will enable you to diffuse that karmic bomb. Diffusing the karmic bomb will also settle your accounts. So two things. One is mindless, unconscious living. Bomb goes off, and then you say, okay, but my karma got worked out. And that second is mindful, conscious living, which is what yoga is about, where you are consciously every moment trying to approach your karma and deal with it with responsibility. Responsible dealing with karma, mindful approach to karma is the means to diffuse the karma bomb. And that sabija karma, it's like the seed is there. People are watering the seed, they are nourishing that seed, and the karma is growing. And you say, these are the seeds that need to be nourished. These are the seeds that need to be kept dry. Let me change my pattern of thinking that is nourishing the karmic manifestation. And by changing your pattern of thinking, that seed of karma is burnt away, it doesn't manifest, and your karma balance is settled. This is the big difference between mindless, unyogic living and mindful yogic living. Yoga is a way of life. The practices are to help you gain the skill. The practices are to enhance your mindfulness. The practices are tools to help you deal with life effectively, efficiently. But ultimately you have to do it. You have to take responsibility. Because if you say that is not my karma, that is not my responsibility, it's going to go off in your life because it is your responsibility. You trying to abdicate responsibility doesn't change the situation in the karmic law. Because the karmic law says, this is your karma, you have to deal with it, you have to face it, and either you diffuse it mindfully or it blasts you to pieces and your karma balance is settled. So we had the Sabija Sanchita karma, the seed karma, dormant karma, Prarabdha karma, the manifesting karma. So you have 10 kilos of karma you have brought into this lifetime. Those 10 kilos have to either go off or you have to diffuse them. Very nice till now. Now the problem is, even as we are living this lifetime, we are creating more karma. It is called Kriyamana karma. Most people are not even diffusing the previous karma, adding to the karmic load, and then you have mines everywhere. Karmic mines everywhere. And you keep on stepping on one mine and blasting one part of you to pieces. Kriyamana karma is the karma, Kriyamana. Kriya is action, mana is mind consciousness. So it is the karma you are creating even in the present moment, Even as I'm talking to you, I'm creating a karma by what I'm saying to you. By sitting here, I'm creating a certain karma. Choose. And that is where in the present moment, you utilize your power of choice to decide what is going to be your action, because whatever action you make is going to have a repercussion. So make sure you are putting out that which you want to come back onto yourself. Sabija Sanchita Karma, Prarabdha Karma, and Kriyamana Karma. Now, the other day I had a question from a dear student, and she said, we have our karma, others have their own karma. How do these interact? Well, they interact very well indeed. Because it is a huge matrix and everybody's karma is entwined with everybody else's karma. And this is why it is not for me to say that I will do what I want and why should you care about it? A typical teen response, or rather a reaction. It's my life, I will do what I want with it. And they have no idea what life is or who they are or what they are doing. So many people are like that. So many people don't grow out of the teens. They are the elderly teens. You know, our karma and others' karma, they are all interlinked. And the closer you are to people, the more the karma linkage will be there. So my karma linkage with all of you who are watching this session right now is a very strong karma linkage. Even if we are not in the same place geographically, we are in the same place doing the same thing together. You are listening to me and I am talking to you, and there is a certain linkage that has been created between you and me, and hence our karma right now, we are bound together by our karma. Now somebody who is not listening to me, somebody who is not listening to me, somebody who has no idea that Dr. Ananda exists, God bless them, they are better off because of it. Their karma and my karma will be very weakly interlinked. As compared to somebody who is aware that Dr. Ananda exists, attends his sessions, and starts interacting with him, and the more you know me and the more I know you, what happens is that our linkage of karma starts to grow stronger. And this becomes even stronger when you accept responsibility for another human being. When I say, yes, Gargi, you are a dear student of mine, it means now I have accepted your karma. Gurulin, I have accepted your karma. Your family karma becomes part of my family karma. Because we have accepted our relationship with each other. When I say I love my dear Divya Hirata and her amazing artistic expressions of my teachings, what starts to happen is we create a bondage. We have to take responsibility for that bondage. And that is why one has to be very careful who are the people you are choosing to interact with. Because their karma starts to become part of your karma starts to become part of their karma, which is why many gurus were very, very careful of who they would accept as a student. Not the modern mega gurus, spiritual MBAs, and it is crazy the way people, they want to have millions of students without even realizing the karmic bondage that is there. Gurus in ancient times were very selective of who they would accept as a student because they realized this. You start to have both the positive and the negative, both come together. Muggs, love you so dearly. You and Bob, amazing, amazing people. Blessed to have you in my life. But the moment you Bob and I start to have our connectivity, then negative and the positive karma will be part of our joint karma baggage. And this is why through the karma cycles we start to understand how we are interconnected. How we are interconnected with each other. We start to understand that interconnectivity. We start to understand how we influence others either positively or negatively, and how others influence us either positively or negatively. And yes, Dawn, nice to see you there. Dawn starting to have her dharma dawn in her life. And the dawning of your dharma in your life is going to help you mitigate the karma that is there. It is so important that we take this responsibility. What we want is we just want to have all the fun with people, and then when it comes to the nitty-gritty, we like to say tata, bye-bye, see you. What an irresponsible act that is in relationships. In relationships, the highs and lows have to be accepted as learning experiences. In life, the positive and the negative have to be understood as being part and parcel of our evolutionary growth. And this is where karma is interlinked. Now the karma interlinked with people who you are close with, who you bring into your life. The karma for your partner. The karma for their family. The karma for the family you create. It is all part and parcel of your karma. You cannot say, no, that's their business. No. And this is why Indian culture laid great stress on choosing mindfully who is going to be in your life. With whom are you going to interact? Where I work, the karma of that place will be part of my karma, and my karma will be part of that place. Does that place get elevated because of me? Do I get elevated because of that place? Or do we pull each other down? Workplace karma, job karma, relationships karma, social karma. Living in India at this point of time, there will be a certain karma because of our social, geographical and political climate. Similarly, those living in North America, they will have their social, political, geographical karma as being part of it. And this is understood by the Indian thought as Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika and Adhyatmika karma. The karma because of where you live. The karma because of what you do. And then the karma that cannot be explained because we don't have an elevated perspective. So we call it the act of God. We call it an act of God as long as we don't understand God's perspective. As you grow, that is what yoga is all about. We are Ishvara with klesha and karma. I'm just seeing so many of my dear ones here today. It's beautiful. We are Ishvara plus klesha karma baggage. Eradicate klesha karma baggage, we become Ishvara. And that is why, Dr. Meena, whether you like it or not, your karma and my karma is so bound, including our karma cycles. And Padma, every time you create that beautiful artwork with what I'm saying in class, you are binding your karma to my karma even more. And Arvind Swami, till COVID, you escaped my karma. Now you have my karma and I have your karma. And I'm happy to accept the karma of all of you beautiful human beings. Because you love and live yoga. Anybody who loves and lives yoga, I will happily accept your karma and help you to the best of my ability to work it out. How do you work out karma? By living your dharma. A Venn diagram, karma, big circle. Dharma, another big circle. For most people, the karma is that corner, dharma is that corner, and a huge gap in between. As you start to grow in consciousness, this circle and this circle starts to come together. And you start to have a bit of overlap where your karma and dharma overlap. As you grow in mindfulness, mindfulness is yoga. Don't believe these modern people. Don't believe these modern people who think they have invented. Don't think mindfulness is a new concept. Mindfulness is yoga. Yoga is mindfulness. Okay. When this circle, karma, and this circle, dharma, when your dharma and karma start to overlap, you are growing. And at one point, your dharma and karma are straight like that. Okay? Here, this is dharma, this is karma. They start to come together, and then one point comes where suddenly you see everything. You know, if I close my left eye, I have a certain field of vision, two-dimensional. I close my right eye, I have another field of vision. It is only when both eyes come together and the images come into one, I have the three-dimensional vision where I understand what I am perceiving. As long as your karma and dharma are two separate circles, you are never going to understand the higher perspective. The perspective, and so you'll keep on blaming act of God, act of God, act of God, like all those bloody idiotic insurance companies who try to avoid a payoff, calling it an act of God. The Man Who Sued God, a movie from Australia, and the Indian version, Oh My God, with Akshay Kumar and Paresh Rawal. I really enjoyed laughing at that movie so much. I had such a laugh-a-thon watching that movie. Loses his shop in an earthquake and the insurance company refuses to pay because it's an act of God. Takes God to court. See, the thing is, as long as we are bound by klesha karma, we will never understand the perspective of Ishvara. This is why the more we start to clear away the klesha, because again go back to it. Klesha moola karma shaya. Klesha moola karma shaya. The karma, the root is the klesha. Nice to see Dr. Madhavan with me today. Wonderful human being. What a beautiful human being, a true yogi. Very rare in these days. Nice to have you with me, Ayya. Klesha. The kleshas are the root of the karma, and as long as you keep the kleshas and you don't touch them, more and more karma shaya, more and more karmic bondage is being created in the kriyamana karma. You are not allowing the sabija sanchita karma even to manifest because you are creating so much new one. Hence it is so important. The more you follow your dharma, the more you live responsibly as you are meant to live. If you are born a human being, for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake, live as a human being. Don't live like a monkey. If you are born human, don't live like a donkey. There was a time you were a monkey. Wonderful. That was your dharma as a monkey, climbing trees. There was a time you were a donkey. That was your dharma in that lifetime. For God's sake, remember, you are born human. Manushya dharma. The dharma of being a human being. Stop reacting like reptiles. Stop reacting with emotional volatility like mammals and become a human being. Let that higher consciousness, let that mindfulness, let that viveka, let it manifest, and suddenly your dharma starts to manifest. Now you cannot wish away karma. And this is why when people start to awaken to these concepts, life becomes a bit heavier. Life becomes a bit heavier because what happens is suddenly you remember, oh my God, what a baggage I have. Till then you were like, I am free to do what I want, it is my life and who cares and it's my life and you all go to hell. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, what do I do with these tons and tons of karma? It can be a very depressing moment. That is why the Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Dejection, depression, and oh my God, hand on the head, face palm, hand on the head moment. And you're like, seriously, what do I do about this? Well, do what you can every moment. Do what you can every moment, and one moment you would have achieved the impossible. Trying to do the impossible right now is impossible. But if every moment you do what you can in that moment, mindfully, there will be a day where you would have actually achieved the impossible and balanced your karma equation by following your dharma. We have something called collective karma. And collective karma is often the karma of our ancestors, which is why in Indian culture, there was an understanding that you are living a life that should benefit your ancestors. Because your ancestors may have made many mistakes, knowingly or unknowingly. Sins of omission and commission. Errors of omission and commission. And today you as their descendant have to bear the cross of that karma often. And it is not your karma, it is a collective karma of your genetic ancestry, your cultural ancestry, and especially those groups of people who have treated others badly in the past. There is karma. And one has to face up to it, take responsibility, and do what we can now. It's not about just saying, oh, poor me. What can I do now to mitigate it? Any place that traditional cultures have been attacked mercilessly by people who have tried to exterminate, it is very, very difficult. And this is why I take great courage in this. I take great courage in this from the example of Bhagirath. Bhagirath had to take care of the karma of his ancestors. His ancestors had messed up things very badly. And his ancestors messed up things so badly, they were burnt to ash. And Bhagirath had to set things right. And he did great tapasya. And his tapasya, his penance, gave the antidote to that ancestor karma. As the fact that the holy Ganga, Ma Ganga, would have to come down to earth from the heavens. And Ma Ganga, if her sacred waters were to run over the ashes of his ancestors, it would mitigate the karma and set things right. Bhagirath took the responsibility, and through his tapasya, he propitiates Lord Shiva. Because when the Ganga comes down to the earth, the power of the Ganga, Ma Ganga, I'm talking about the Ganges. The English term Ganges is so alien to us that, people come and they want, where is the Ganges? And people are like, what are you? Oh, you want ganja? Ganja is the drug, hallucinogenic drug. Errors in communication people have. Ma Ganga. Ma Ganga. This Ganges sounds so weird. Uh, where is the Ganges? Oh yeah, here's some ganja. Get intoxicated and go back to a country and say that you lived by the Ganges drugged. Sorry, but I see so many of these weirdos who think they are spiritual and just are such a mess. Ma Ganga, when she comes down, the force of Ma Ganga coming from the heavens to earth will be so tremendous that nothing can withstand it except Lord Shiva. And hence Bhagirath prays to Lord Shiva that Shiva, in his hair deadlocks, he accepts the Ganga and then she flows down from his deadlocks into the earth. There is beautiful iconography of that scene. I have a question here from Antoniette Kumar. Karma is collective. All of us have the same karma. Some choose to work it out, some choose not to work it out, some choose to ignore it. So the ones who choose to work it out, they are blessed. They are blessed. They are fortunate to help the ancestors get the karmic balance cleared. That is what Bhagirath is doing. And Bhagirath brings the holy Ganga Ma down to earth with the assistance of Lord Shiva and rids his ancestors of the ancestral karma. It's a very important example for us because we always want somebody else to do it. No, Bhagirath stood up. He stood up to be counted. He said, I will do it. And that is why in my composition that I composed at the banks of the holy Ganga, He Gange Ma Un Padam Parnindin, He Gange Ma Un Padam Parnindin, Arul Puriya Vendume Entaye Gange Ma Un Padam Parnindin, Arul Puriya Vendume Entaye Gange Ma Un Padam Parnindin, Bhagiradan Tavatal Undanai Azhaithan, Bhagiradan Tavatal Undanai Azhaithan, Isanum Jadamudiyil Tangi Ulagu Kalithan, Bhagiradan Tavatal Undanai Azhaithan, Isanum Jadamudiyil Tangi Ulagu Kalithan, Geriga Geriga Nibanim Nibanim Gerizani Bagarisa Gabani Geriga Geriga Nibanim Nibanim Gerizani Bagarisa Nisa Sa Papa Sa Sa Sariga Baga Rigabani Gabani Zani Sa Sa Papa Sa Sa Sariga Baga Rigabani Gabani Zani Gerizani Zani Gerizani Panim Risani Sani Parisani Pagapam Sani Pagirisariga Panirihim Gange Mam Un Padam Parnindin. I composed this on the banks of the holy Ganga when we went up to Rishikesh and Haridwar with my beloved Navin Daswani ji a few years ago. This is why when people go to the Ganga, be it at Rishikesh, Haridwar, Kashi, Varanasi, Benares, it is believed that your karma is washed away. Just as when Bhagirath brought that beautiful Ganga down to rid his ancestors of the karma, it is believed that when you have a bath, dasasna, 10 times you have to have a bath. You have to go down and up in the Ganga 10 times. Dasasna. It is said all your karma is washed away. Now people, they want to do all the mistakes, go there, have a bath, come back, and it's like Sunday confession. It's not meant like that. It is so important that we realize these are the literal manifestations that we have to take responsibility. Invoke that divine spirit of the holy Ganga in our life to wash away the impurity. Klesha karma has to be washed away so that that Shiva, that eternal goodness, that transformative oneness can manifest in our life. And at that point, Shivoham, 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 Soham, Satchidananda, Swarupoham. It is at that time we can have that happening. And this is why it is easy to say there is collective karma and I am a victim of it. That is a victim tendency. Responsible growth says there is collective karma. What can I do to help all of us mitigate our karma? That is what Bhagirath did. So many stories of the great rishis. That is why the initial part, you have the Bhagirathi and the Alakananda in the Himalayas that then become the Holy Ganga. These are stories that are not externalized. These are to be internalized. The flow of the divine purificatory energy is Holy Ma Ganga. That has to flow through us. I cannot but remember one of our dear members of the ashram who in the 80s when Swamiji was camped in Haridwar, he was camped in Haridwar, Rishikesh and Dehradun for 3 months and conducted many sessions. It was around the Kumbh Mela time in the mid 80s. And we had our party and we had many people and we had one of our music masters in those days and everybody was doing the 10 dips in the Ganga and you have to be very careful. The Ganga can really be very powerful. And in fact, they have metal chains by the side. Metal chains by the side because the force of the Ganga can be so strong that if you're not holding on, you'll be washed away with it. Many people get washed away. And I remember Swamiji had done his 10 baths. There's an old video of him doing it someplace. I have to find it. Someone shared it once. I think it was shared by our ashram in Italy. I must find that video. Sometime back they shared a very beautiful collection of videos. It was very beautiful. Swamiji and others did this and then this person in our party, he went to take his 10 baths, 10 dips, holy dips. And after a few dips, Swamiji said, enough, please come out. And the guy was like, what's happening? And Swamiji said, this guy is so filled with sin that if he does 10 baths, there will be nothing left. Because all the sin will be washed away in the Ganga, there will be nothing left and I have to take somebody back. Otherwise his family in Pondicherry will say, where is my husband, where is my father and all. So he said, after a few baths, come out of the water. If you take all 10, you are so much of full sin, you'll totally be washed away. Swamiji had some of those moments, so he really gave it to you. I often think about that, people want to act holy. It's not about acting holy, it's about being holy. And what is the meaning of the word holy? Wholesomeness. When you are a wholesome person, when you are a wholesome being, that is where holiness manifests. Not in external garb, not in titles, and not with any other paraphernalia. You become a wholesome, holy person. You are a whole. You are one. You are not divided. So coming back, the question of how our karma influences us and others around us, Swamiji used to tell the story that how karma is different depending on your perspective. He said, You are walking down a forest path and you meet a tiger. You get eaten by the tiger. Okay? Now, it may be bad karma for you that you were eaten by a tiger, but it is good karma for the tiger who got breakfast, lunch, or dinner, depending on, how well endowed you are. And I think this I used to think about as a kid, because we are only looking at it usually from one perspective. Oh, that person's poor karma. But then, what is the other side of that same occurrence? And because we are fixed in our position, we are fixed in our perspective, we are locked in it, in fact, we often don't understand that what may appear to be bad may actually be necessary in another scheme of things. It is like the big tree has to fall for the new saplings to grow. Bad karma for the big tree which had to fall, but good karma for the saplings which had to grow. Because as long as that big tree and its shade is there, the young saplings often cannot grow. And in life also, this is why change is eternal. Change is eternal because constantly there has to be a cycle. That is why when we are studying yantra, we are understanding karma as a cycle. Dharma is not a cycle. Dharma is a path. It is a marga. But karma is a yuga. It is a cycle. And we have these cyclic patterns of 9 milliseconds, microseconds, 9 seconds, 9 days, 9 weeks, 9 months, 9 years, 9 lifetimes. And that is why the more we become mindful of it, the more we take responsibility for it, the more we can actually mitigate it. But as Antoinette Kumar is asking, karma is going to be something that you are going to have to constantly work on until you have done the best you can and you get out of the cycle. This is why the very, very important aspect of Maharishi Patanjali's teachings is, once you make it, you have eradicated the klesha karma, the gunas have gone into pratiprasava, they have gone back, you have gone through the whole parinama tapa, and you have attained kaivalya. It doesn't exist for you anymore, but for those who are still caught in it, it still exists. And this is where what happens is you work out the karma to the best of your ability, and then you come out of that cycle. You transcend that karma cycle. I was saying recently, in Indian culture, everything will have a quantification and then we'll say beyond it. You have the 3 gunas and then guna atita. You will have 3 aspects and then kala atita. Deha atita. Everything you will have atita. Avastha, Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, Turya, Atita. You will have Atita. I say next will be Karma Atita, where you transcend the karma. That is the state of Nirguna. And that is a state. That is the state where you have transcended it. But for those who are still caught in it, they will still have to go through it. And the next person in line takes responsibility to keep the relay race going. The kleshas and karma are actually the key where we need to work. Atita means beyond, Terry. That which is beyond, to transcend. And that is why that concept of transcendence, Swamiji used to get very mad at Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, because he said Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, took transcendental meditation to the West and TM trademark. And Swamiji said, all meditation has to become transcendental. So it's not that only TM is transcendental, all meditation is transcendental. And that is why what we have to do is we have to transcend our karma. Those who are locked in the karma cycle will still go through it. Because again, each individual is carrying their own baggage. So what you are doing is you are contributing towards the overall karma eradication. It is like all of us have to work together to combat climate change. Each one of us has to work towards it. So we can do what we can do to combat climate change. But ultimately, each person must work on their own individual karma. And when we all start, imagine everybody starts working together, well, the karma of climate change can also be transcended. I think that's enough for today. There's been a heavy dose today. You are all so patient with me, and it's just so wonderful to have you all with me on these Saturday mornings. 31 weeks now, non-stop. And let's see how long it continues and where it goes. Because these are opportunities for us to think, contemplate, and discuss concepts that are so important. So important as a human being. And as someone who aspires for a manifestation of the divinity, I think it is so important that we stand up to be counted, take responsibility for ourselves, and enable as many as we can to work out the karma through us. Swamiji and Ammaji have given us this beautiful path. And as Ammaji told me a few nights ago as I was singing for her, we have been having a good time. Last night after one long song, she said, "Yay, that was a good concert." And I get a wow, and that's nice. And as I was leaving, I said, "Good night, Ma. I'm going up to bed now. See you in the morning." She made a beautiful statement. She said, "I wish I were your girl. I wish I were your girl." And I just thought, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that so wonderful that you have an opportunity to live a life where you can give back to your parents, where you can give back to your teachers, where you can give back to your ancestors. So beautiful. We are fortunate when these teachings come into our life. Let us realize how fortunate we are. Let us share. Let us share these teachings, because sharing is caring. And if we don't care, are we truly human? If we don't share, are we truly divine? Namaste. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om. Have a wonderful time wherever you are. Be the best you. That's the most important part.